Okay, so let's get started on describing to you what we will do in this video. Or in this video series, I should say. So in this series of video, as you just saw, we're going to make a video game where the player pretty much stands in place. So this right here is our player. Now you also saw in the video that the player can turn left and the player can turn right. But you might have noticed that that was limited. So if this is the direct, then the player can see about 45 degrees to the left and about 45 degrees to the right. Now, the enemies, they are about 100, I guess, points away. I'm not really sure what it is. I'd have to look up what Unity uses to measure things. But anyways, it's at a Z of about 100 away. And I find that at 100, there are 2 points that are just at the edge of this cone. If anything, sometimes they're a little bit over, but that would be a 100, a negative 100x, and a positive 100x. So we have 100z. And of course we will have them at a 0y, so they come straight at the player. Then the player will shoot a little ball that we make that will go in a straight line from whatever direction the player is facing. And if the ball touches one of the bad guys, let's say this is a bad guy, then the bad guy is destroyed. But if one of our bad guys is able to avoid the bullets until he touches the player, then it's game over and we lose. And that's the main part of the game. It will look very nice when it's done, but in essence it's very simple. And of course, to improve this, you can add a 3D model with animations to the bad guys. You can give them health, so they have to be hit multiple times. You can add speed to your bullets, or you can have like a hold and charge type thing. You can add an animation to your player, zoom out the camera. There are so many things that you can do to improve this game. One of the ideas that I even had was to follow the Unity tutorial to add a mini map. So you have your player here, and then instead of limiting your player to a 45-degree angle, you let him turn around in a circle, so you have a little mini map showing all of these bad guys all around you, and so you have to spin in a circle instead of limiting it to this 90-degree area. But the properties of KISS keep it simple. So without further ado, I'm going to create a new project. This is going to be a 3D core project. As you can see, I'm using Unity Hub 3.1.1, which is a fairly new version as of I guess April 2022. And my editor version will be 2020.3.16 F1 LTS, which is long-term service or something like that. Pretty much it means that they say that this is a good working version and they're going to keep it for a long time. Okay, as for my project name, I will call this the Shooter game. It will go in my folder here. And let's create it. I don't need anything else. Looks like it's loading right now, or creating right now, I should say. And of course, I will work on uploading this code to GitHub so that you can see the code as well. I know when I follow tutorials myself, I always love it when I can actually download the creator's source code for when I encounter errors. I do ask for you to not just copy and paste this code into something you monetize. Hopefully you change enough to make it your own, like implementing those features that I mentioned, like the compass. Of course, I do give you permission to use everything here in whatever you want to whatever capacity that you want, because I am not going to be doing anything special. Okay, so now we've just got our basic thing with our sample scene. I actually like my hierarchy to be over here. Okay, and the first thing we want to do is let's create that player of ours. So I'm going to go to 3D objects. Oh, sorry. First I go to my hierarchy sample scene and I will right click to, then I will go down to 3D object and click capsule. Another way you can do this, I believe, is you can go to the things up here. Yes, assets, create, and then you can find, no, this would create it in your assets. Okay, game object, 3D, and then capsule, if you don't want to right click. Now for my capsule, I'm going to name this the player capsule. Now my player capsule will also have a gun. Ooh, scary. So to make that, I am going to use a cube, and the cube I will say is the barrel cube. And I want to edit this a little bit, so let's zoom in a bit, and I am going to shrink its scale. So I want it to only stick out on the Z. So on the X it's going to be 0.2 and the Y is going to be 0.2. And look, it's a little fun barrel. I'm going to stick it out about this much. Let's change that to 0.75. That sounds like a fun number. And I want one more thing at the end of my barrel cube, which will be just an empty game object. This game object is going to be called the barrel end, and this will be used to instantiate the shots away from the character. So let's click on the X, turn it from perspective to the other thing. Let's move on down and let's try to drag it to the end. So it looks like we want it to be at about 0.5. That sounds like a good number. And now I can actually turn off the mesh renderer and the box collider of my player cube. The other thing is we want to detect collisions on the player. So with the player capsule selected, I'm going to click Add Component, and then I want to add a rigid body. But if I keep it like this, my player will fall to the ground. Now that's not to stop you from going here, creating a 3D plane, adding a rigid body to the plane and making it kinematic so your player can walk on the plane. That's another thing you can do. However, I want this person to be stuck. So I'm going to say do not use gravity. I'm not going to say is kinematic because I have had trouble turning my character when I do that. But I will go to my constraints and I want to freeze his position. His X, Y, and Z position will be frozen, but his rotations will be allowed. If you want, you can even freeze the X and the Z since we only need Y. I guess another option for this would be, instead of simply having it as I showed here, where it's your players in the middle of a circle, so here's the player in the middle of a circle, you can do it where your player is in the middle of a sphere. So he can get attacked from X, Y, and Z, whereas this would just be x and y. Well, actually, sorry. In Unity, this would be x and z. Since z is forward, y is up and down. Okay. And let's find my Unity. There we are. Okay. So at this phase, or at this step right here, I will say that this is the end of our first video. We have frozen positions, frozen rotations, but Y is open. Gravity is off. We have added a rigid body, and we've added the barrel cube, which has a scale of 0.2, 0.21 at the position of 0.75 with the mesh renderer turned off. Then we have an empty game object called barrel end at z 0.5. We can start to work on the player rotating after this, so I look forward to having you join the next video, and thank you for watching this one.